Within the world of classic WoW, there are few zones that come close to capturing the spooky, Halloween-esque vibe of Duskwood. Decrepit, dark, and filled with the mindless dead and other threats, it's a place that Alliance players remember fondly as a great questing zone with plenty of frightening twists, and it fits hand in hand with the eerie holiday of Hallow's End on Azeroth. Like me, you may have leveled through here many times over the years, and while it doesn't take long to know the quests and enemies that are found here, I think there are some intricacies and even major plot twists that most players overlook time and time again. Today, let's unearth the lost secrets of Duskwood, from the curious nobles of Darkshire to hidden connections in the lore that have gone unnoticed for 20 years. As always, thank you for the fun comments and support. Happy Halloween, and with all that being said, let's get right into it. Our tale today begins at the Darkshire Town Hall, where Lord Elo Ebenlock presides as mayor over the Council of Darkshire, a group of nobles who serve as the governing body of this corrupted land. In the absence of troop reinforcements from the capital of Stormwind, the council is feeling even more pressure to maintain some semblance of safety through their militia-style night watch, which does what it can to protect Darkshire and some of the main roads. In the 20 years since dark energy from Deadwind Pass corrupted the very soil of what was once Brightwood, Duskwood has slowly fallen victim to a variety of issues, from ravenous undead to horrific beasts, and even mysterious groups of worgen appearing in recent months. I encourage you to also check out my other videos that examine this zone in different ways, and I'll put links to them down in the description. Officially, there are 4 members of the Council of Darkshire, but I personally believe there could be 6 or 7. Lord Elo Ebenlock and his Deputy Mayor Roll Druger, along with Councilman Millstipe and Ambassador Berrybuck, seem to be the most prominent 4. The most noticeable aspect of these NPCs is that they are involved in an ongoing conversation about the future of Duskwood and the lack of support from Stormwind. The people of Darkshire expect more from the Council. We cannot let them suffer from this unholy wrath which plagues us. Our cause falls on deaf ears beyond the thick stone walls of Stormwind. We must not give in to the evil which has darkened our land. The Night Watch must prevail. And on and on. Inside the town hall, Hogan Ference and Sira Von Indy may serve in supporting roles as the historian and perhaps librarian, and Far and Darius can be found nearby in the Scarlet Raven Tavern. Hogan and Farin also have similar dialogue that is linked to this conversation, which indicates to me they may be part of the council or are close to those within it. There is even evidence from the Burning Crusade that backs this up. When we finally do enter the Tower of Karazhan in Deadwind Pass and witness the haunted dinner party that is stuck in time, we see ghostly relatives of all 7 of these characters, all of whom share the last names and some other characteristics with their modern counterparts. 6 of them have a chance of spawning in as a mini-boss alongside Moros, trying to grow their influence and chat with the steward, while the 7th, a noble simply named Ebenlock, looks on from the balcony above. This party is pointless. Those foolish nobles will never get to see Medivh. Can't they see this? I should have just stayed at home with my family instead of wasting my time here. It seems that the nobles of Brightwood gathered here at Medivh's last party decades ago, and were all killed off when his demonic energy ripped through the tower, permanently cursing it. During the time of Classic WoW, the descendants of the nobles now lead Duskwood through this ongoing darkness. From our limited glimpse into the lives of these characters, it seems the current council and its allies are much less aloof than their parents, each one actively involved in the local government and discussing current events. With most of the farmsteads and estates outside of Darkshire now ruined, abandoned, or overrun with enemies, it's also likely the nobles and many other citizens of Brightwood have relocated here, where the Night Watch is most prominent. The final point I want to mention regarding the council is a lost quest that never made it out of the beta. Ambassador Berrybuck is the one interacting most directly with the bureaucrats in Stormwind, but we never get any details to confirm this relationship. However, digging into the game files reveals a neat bit of lore for this NPC that was shelved during development. Lord Ebenlock sent me to Stormwind to represent Darkshire at the recent Council of the House of Nobles. I was tasked with requesting military aid in light of the undead infestation which has taken over the forest. but on my way back a band of thieves ambushed me. I was forced to drive my cart to the rotting orchard in southern Duskwood. Before the thieves could rob me of my goods, a pack of ferocious worgen overtook the thugs. Now I need you to retrieve my satchel from the chest in the wagon. This highlights the worgen, the Defias bandits, and the ambassador's specific role within the council, which I think is really cool. Even more so, you can actually go to the rotting orchard and find the black box, named Ambassador's Locker, still in the game, but it can't be opened and doesn't contain the quest item. It's always these darn lockboxes causing trouble. I have no idea why this quest didn't make the final cut, but it is certainly an interesting bit of removed content that I had never heard about before. Even without this quest, the Council of Darkshire is a group you interact with quite a few times during the main storyline, but it's not the only group working against the darkness that continues to permeate the land. Across the town square, a large home in the center of Darkshire has opened its doors to enemies of the undead. The Carevin family, led by Elaine and Jonathan, is sponsoring warriors who are willing to travel beyond the main roads and hunt down the sources of corruption here. Kaller, the lead follower we meet in this coalition, has this to say when we first interact with him. Master Carevin's quest is the expulsion of evil and heresy. Through our efforts are the people of Darkshire kept safe. You believe yourself worthy to join us? I once thought as you. Disillusioned by the complacency of the Watch, I joined Master Carevin. If you wish to prove yourself, it will not be through words. This kicks off one of the main stories involving the worgen menace here in the zone. It seems the House of Carevin is not too fond of how the Night Watch, and by proxy the Council, is handling the defense of Duskwood, only sticking to Darkshire and the main roads when they can. This is of course because Stormwind is withholding the necessary resources, but it seems the Council is not quite ready to admit this to the public, or they're waiting for more information to confirm their suspicions. Another detail I find interesting is Kaller's armor, which looks very similar to the regular Night Watch outfits, but dyed black, symbolic of his newfound allegiance in these uncertain times. As you complete more quests in the service of House Carevin, there are a few more tiny details that paint a more complex picture of the intentions and philosophy of this faction, and there is certainly a religious aspect as well. Elaine Carevin mentions how Sven, another quest NPC you meet in Duskwood, is a man who does the work of the light, but the biggest reveal is at the end of the worgen quest chain, where you get to meet Jonathan Carevin himself. We can use the help of all who have proven themselves. We battle against demons, the undead, and those who would provide them aid. Be vigilant, be wary, and trust none who would not give aid to our cause. Glory under the light. He then offers you a number of light-themed objects as rewards. The Carevins are undoubtedly devout followers of the light, and it's fortunate they've ended up here, where their skills are needed, but is that all there is to know? I'd like to share a theory I came across while researching this video. Let's go back to Jonathan's sign-off, Glory under the light. While this may sound fairly standard, especially for followers of the main human religion on Azeroth, there is a dark secret here. Compared to the famous Light be with you that Alliance players are familiar with, Glory under the light seems much more zealous, and this is the one time that it is said here in the Kingdom of Stormwind. There is only one other place in the entire game it's mentioned, far to the north, embedded within the documents of the fanatical Scarlet Crusaders. Could it be the Carevins are not merely hunting down the undead that infest Duskwood, but are also trying to covertly drum up support for the Crusade while doing so? It's an intriguing theory, and out of the hundreds of thousands of words of quest text within Classic WoW, it is certainly curious that this phrase only pops up twice, very intentionally both times. Maybe they're even working under the guidance of Brother Crowley, an emissary of the Crusade only found by those willing to explore the catacombs underneath the Cathedral of Light in Stormwind. Let me know what you think about this theory, but I personally am going to be approaching these guys a bit more cautiously during my next playthrough. Let's now turn to one of the most well-known quest lines in Duskwood, the tale of Abercrombie and his horrific minion Stitches. After posing as a harmless old man living out near Ravenhill Cemetery, it is revealed that Abercrombie has actually been crafting a fleshwork abomination with the supplies you've been giving him. which he then sends as a twisted gift along the road to Darkshire. Many hardcore runs have been cut short by stitches, a rather unique environmental threat that spawns in as players complete the storyline. We all know Abercrombie, who has taken on the persona of the Embalmer, but it's never fully explained who he really is or how he fits into the history of Duskwood. We are working with limited information here, but it is possible he may be working alongside the necromancer Morbent Fell in terrorizing the land, as he slips up and almost says, "Thank the necromancer," during one of his quests. It's even possible that, below the cemetery, the alchemy workshop partially belongs to Abercrombie, who provides the chemical aspect of reanimating the dead, while Fell provides the magical power. This would be a nice parallel to the two main halves of the catacombs below the surface, with both sides corresponding to one of the main villains who dwell above. While Mayor Ebenlock says he does not know Abercrombie when you bring him the Embalmer's note, the Hermit himself claims that he and the Mayor are old friends, perhaps alluding to some history we never get to see in-game. The strangest part of all this, though, is how Elo is able to fit what is happening right now into an old fairy tale presumably created long ago. The Embalmer is a name told in one of our children's stories. He was a kindly alchemist, driven mad by the death of his wife Eliza. To restore her, he used dark magic to place his own heart within the bosom of his dead spouse. His heart is his power. Find his wife's grave, retrieve his heart, and bring it to me while it still beats. Do this, and his power will be broken. Certainly a strange twist near the end of the quest line involving who we thought was a simple hermit. We do find Eliza's grave, and we do retrieve the heart, just as the fairy tale predicted, which again begs the question of, how is all this happening? The simplest answer is that Abercrombie is familiar with the old tale, and has adopted this persona in his growing madness, but it is strange that everything, including his wife's name, lines up with what we expect. The one other theory I have is by no means correct, but after thinking about it for a long while, I believe it fits in a perfectly out of left field sort of way. In Karazhan, at the dinner party Stuck in Time, players can also stumble across a play featuring bosses embodying twisted, Azeroth versions of the Wizard of Oz, Little Red Riding Hood, or Romeo and Juliet, each of whom wield terrifying powers based on their original stories. It seems the demonic curse within the tower has brought tales from old books to life here, not so different from what we see with the Embalmer in nearby Duskwood. With the withering curse of Karazhan spreading to nearby lands, and the mysterious Dark Riders also corrupting life wherever they travel, it is not out of the question that one of these fairy tales has seeped out of the bounds of the tower and into Ravenhill Cemetery, a setting perfect for a fictional mad alchemist turning to necromancy. Maybe the original Abercrombie, whoever he was even present at the gala when the apocalypse happened, and his consciousness was warped into the evil hermit from the fairy tale, an echo of his former self still remembering an old feud with the Ebenlock family who would continue to lead Darkshire for decades. Sound crazy enough for you yet? It's a stretch in some regards, but somehow still bundles together a lot of what we know about Abercrombie and his story. And plus, this fairy tale theory is the only explanation I can come up with that explains why everything lines up with the myth. He's literally the guy from the book. One of the other great villains to arise from Duskwood is Stalvan Mistmantle, a former schoolteacher and tutor who, several years ago, went on a murderous spree and targeted a family he once served, falling to insanity after being rejected by the young daughter of the family. Most Alliance players are familiar with this infamous tale, and if you take the time to read the quest text and Stalvan's own ramblings in his letters, you'll know just how unsettling it is. After piecing together the forgotten journal pages that help explain his past, you eventually track Stalvan to Manor Mistmantle north of Darkshire, where you prevent future bloodshed by ending his reign of terror. This quest chain is well known, but there are a few things we can unpack to gain a deeper appreciation for the writing and game design here. As you travel around Duskwood and the neighboring zones, collecting fragments of Stalvan's past, a forlorn spirit occasionally spawns to attack you, screeching, "Let the legend of Stalvan rest," or "Toil not in matters of the past." We don't know why this banshee appears to be on Stalvan's side, even spreading a curse to you named after him, but it's certainly a curious element of the quest. The only female character mentioned by name is Taloa, the daughter of the family I mentioned earlier, and while it might seem unlikely she would go on to protect her tormentor in death, Stalvan's dialogue of, "Taloa, is that you? Why no, it's just some dirty intruder," could imply she is still around in an undead form. It wouldn't be the first time in Warcraft history where a banshee has been turned to serve the one who wronged them. It's also possible this spirit is simply a manifestation of Stalvan's rage, channeling some type of shadowy power to enforce this secret even years later. When we eventually do find Stalvan, we find that he has withered away into a husk of a man, sharing the same model as an undead Forsaken. He is classified as undead, meaning he died at some point and was resurrected by the dark influence of Duskwood itself, or maybe a totally separate force. It's hard to say. We also don't know why the Eva family in Darkshire was apparently Stalvan's next target, as seen by Madame Eva in a premonition, but it seems after the initial incident, Stalvan continued to hunt down victims to satiate his dark hunger. There are two other small details I'd like to mention. In the Burning Crusade, within the Caverns of Time, the old Hillsbrad dungeon lets you see Stalvan many years ago, when he was still a schoolteacher from Lordaeron. For some reason, this version of Stalvan is one of the only NPCs in the game to have different colored hair and facial hair, which is probably the most random detail you'll find in today's video. Back in Duskwood, you may also venture to Manor Mistmantle if you're a warlock to gather a reagent aptly named the Tear of Taloa, a white flower that grows in the field outside Stalvan's house. No idea why the flower is named after this girl, or how the warlocks of Stormwind apparently know about Stalvan's home or this flower to begin with, but my guess is it's more of an on-the-nose callback to the legend of Stalvan in general, not something that's going to automatically make sense in the lore. But hey, if you have a more compelling theory that explains it somehow, I'd love to hear it down in the comments. To finish off this deep dive, I'd like to cover some small one-off details that don't necessarily fit into the larger narratives, but I think they're still meaningful in their own ways. On the north end of Darkshire, the astronomer Victori Prismontros offers a small quest chain in which you help him build a telescope. My gnomish friend Cog has promised to help me build a device which will let me peer towards the stars. A truth exists beyond magic that can explain the strange transformation in the forest. While this is likely a random one-off detail that doesn't have a deeper meaning, the stars do relate to one aspect of Duskwood in a very important way. When the Worgen and the Scythe of Elune story was first introduced in vanilla, it was established that the Wolfmen were not summoned from within the Emerald Dream, but were originally creatures from a dark planet of their own, far off in the cosmos. With this in mind, it gives us a tiny connection between astronomy and the danger that currently lurks within Duskwood, just as the astronomer predicted. Not far away, to the north of Darkshire, Watcher Callahan stands on the side of the road with the goblin Kizix, a vendor of rare goods and potions. This is one of the first goblins you'll meet as a human player, but Callahan also stands out in his own way, if you know where to look. In the beta game files, and the Brady Games strategy guide for that matter, Callahan was apparently involved in 2 quests, Awaiting Word and Four-Legged Menaces, the first of which was a quest from Watcher Dodds in the west, and the second asked players to kill rabid direwolves along the Darkened Bank. Again, I have no idea why these quests were cut from the final release, but I think they would have been nice to balance the quest load out on this side of the zone. Speaking of the Darkened Bank, you may be aware of the random solid chests that can spawn out here and in the neighboring parts of the zone. It's one of the only spots that features chests that aren't guarded by humanoids, adding to the intrigue of exploring this haunted wood. The final detail I want to end on today takes us back into town. The archway welcoming you actually says Darkshire on the model, which is an uncommon sight in WoW where pretty much all in-game signs are done using the language database, not spelled out on the assets themselves. Except this one in Westfall, of course. We know the original name of Darkshire was the Grand Hamlet, but for some reason, maybe in defiance of their abandonment by Stormwind, the town hired the local blacksmiths to craft a new entryway, one reflecting the darker, more ominous vibe of the zone, and the more serious council that oversees it. That's a wrap on all the lost secrets of Duskwood I was able to uncover, and thank you all so much for watching. From Stalvan and Stitches to Councilmen and Crusaders, I hope you've enjoyed exploring the secrets of Duskwood as much as I have, a perfect Halloween edition of WoW lore and lore theories. It's one of my favorite zones, and even after all these years, I hope I've conveyed that there are still new things to uncover in classic WoW. A special thank you to my channel members who provide bonus support for these videos, and until next time, may the Force be with you.